Do you feel like you've done everything right? You Googled, you went to the doctor, you've done the Kegels like they told you, and yet your bulge seems to be getting worse. And you're thinking, hang on a minute, am I doing something wrong? Am I broken? Have I made things worse? Now, let me say this slowly because I know how intense this moment can feel. If you have a prolapse, it is absolutely possible that Kegels are making things worse. And not because you're failing and not because you're defective, but because pressure management is the name of the game, and most women have never been taught pressure management. So my intention for the end of this video is for you to really understand why Kegels can often backfire for prolapse, what pressure management truly is, and it's not just in the body, and how hypopressives can actually be a better bridge than Kegels, particularly for somebody who's athletic, somebody who loves to work out, and somebody who's used to pushing through. And there's something else I really want you to feel by the end of this video, not just informed, but I also want you to feel like you're orientated again. Like, there's a reason this is happening and there's a path forwards. We've worked with so many clients who love to work out. Lisa, ultramarathon runner, Taylor, volleyball, mountains, skiing, hiking, wakeboarding, Katie, ex-soccer player, Tracy, loves to lift. You know, they were all identity shaken athletes. The kind of women who can tolerate a lot and still show up. And after their diagnosis, they all did what so many high achievers often do, and they go into fix-it mode. You know, more PT, doubling down on Kegels, therapy, acupuncture, the list goes on. And these women have described to me that the more they did, the more anxiety they felt inside, the more pressure they felt inside, the more fear they felt, the more bracing and guarding inside their bodies. And when we shifted these amazing women away from squeeze harder, do more, to let's change the pressure system, their symptoms started calming down. Not overnight, but consistently. They stopped feeling like their body was a ticking time bomb. They got their confidence back. Symptoms reduced, effective training followed. By the way, if you're really resonating with all of this information and you're thinking, I need somebody to look at my specific situation and help me figure out my path forwards, please join me on my free live webinar. You can find the link in the description below here, or comment webinar in the comment section and I will send you the link. And you can join me on my live webinar. And this webinar is for women who are athletic, who love to work out, who have a prolapse, who want to get back to training but are afraid that if they get back to the kind of training they love, they're going to make their prolapse worse. It's a trauma-informed blueprint and I'd love to see you there. So just grab that link below in the description or comment webinar in the comments and I'll send it to you. Have you ever had that moment where you're about to lift? You got the bar in front of you, you're about to get under it, squat, and you feel this feeling of dread, anxiety inside of yourself. And immediately your brain starts looping, am I gonna make this worse? And you might even start getting images in your mind, I know I used to, about your prolapse bulging even further. So you back off. You tell yourself, I'm being sensible, this is the best thing for me. But really inside you feel like you're losing a piece of yourself. And if that's you, I want you to know you're not overreacting, you're not broken, you're not failing. You're just stuck in a system that keeps giving you little pieces of fragmented advice. And pieces that never really resolve the root problem for athletes, which is pressure, load, and nervous system threat all looping together. And today we're going to clear that up. We're going to give you some clarity, and that even though you've tried everything, there is still a pathway back to high impact exercising and weight training without constantly feeling like you're gambling with your body. My husband and I, Duncan, had a client who was doing what we call the overachiever tour. So she was doing hypopressives online, breathwork, therapy, Kegels, you know, the list went on. She was using tools, but she didn't have an integrated approach, a pressure management blueprint. Effort wasn't the reason her prolapse symptoms weren't improving. It wasn't that. She was doing all the things, but she was lacking integration. And remember that fear affects the way you breathe. It affects the way you squat. It affects the way you move. It affects your apnea in a hypopressive. It affects absolutely everything. So you really need to have an integrated pressure strategy. You can't just use a bunch of fragmented tools through no fault of your own and expect your prolapse to heal, when it's really a threat-based nervous system, fear-based challenge at root. And if we keep doing things that activate that nervous system, that fear loop cycle, then we're going to keep getting the same result. And remember, if you want the full plan, if you're resonating with this, if you want to meet me live, grab that registration link in the description below or comment webinar and we'll send you the link and join me on my live webinar. And this is where I'll show you my training focused, prolapse safe roadmap that connects all the dots between pressure management, core rehabilitation, nervous system regulation, returning to lifting and impact without fear. Grab that link in the description or comment webinar and I'll send you the link and look forward to seeing you live. So here's what I know about you if you've tried everything. You're disciplined, you show up, you can follow a plan. And I also know that you're probably living in this constant cycle of checking your symptoms all day long, being hypervigilant and being wary that, what if I have another flare tomorrow? And you've likely had a bunch of conflicting messaging, such as if you're gonna lift, only lift light forever, or never lift above this weight, or do hypopressives, and on and on and on. And the thing is that none of this really answers the question of how do I generate force without pushing my organs down? That's the real question. And that's not just a physical thing. So I'm gonna give you a framework that's really simple and deep. So listen like an athlete. Step number 1. So many women who love to work out approach prolapse, I know I did, in the same way they approach training, working out. More consistency, more discipline, more pressure, more pushing through. And while that's a mega powerful mindset to have in the world of training, CrossFit, high rocks, lifting, 5K running, hiking, whatever it is you love to do, it can often backfire when it comes to prolapse and pressure management. This is a whole different thing. Pressure responds better to coordination, strategy, timing, and most importantly, the part nobody wants to hear, nervous system regulation. So every time you inhale, your diaphragm drops down, your abdominals react accordingly, your pelvic floor responds, and if your system is fully integrated and your nervous system is regulated, that pressure is not a problem. The pressure distributes and all is well. But if you are already in a braced position within your body, so I'm thinking of our client Lauren right now. Lauren has an ex-athletic background. She also grew up in a household where there was a lot of health anxiety and vulnerability around the physical body, plus some potential trauma. So Lauren didn't realize, but when she came to work with us, she was in a bracing, flared, stressed situation, both in her mind, her emotions, her nervous system, and in her body. So think about it. When she tried to inhale into the ribs, expand the ribs in the hypopressive breath technique, for example, her braced system meant that she couldn't breathe effectively into the ribs because of her nervous system, because of her trauma, because of her bracing. So where did that pressure go, even in a really cool hypopressive? Down to the pelvic floor, because the pressure will always go to the weakest spot. So it doesn't matter if you're going to carry a baby seat with your baby in upstairs, 5K run, box jump, lift a barbell, squat, whatever it is, doesn't really matter. What matters is what your body and your nervous system is doing before you do that. And if your system is already tense, braced, pushing down, anything we do is gonna, really accentuate that. And then the pelvic floor is like the basement, and it's gonna take the hit. It's gonna take that pressure hit. because you're not just rehabbing an isolated pelvic floor. You're rebuilding a pressure system under athletic demand, right? And even deadlifting down to load some washing or carrying a baby up the stairs in a car seat, that's still athletic demand. I'll say that again. What we've got to do is we've got to rebuild a pressure management system under athletic demand. And if your nervous system is living in threat, meaning you are anxious, you're fearful you're going to make things worse, you're afraid your organs are going to fall out, you're gripping, upper ab gripping, tightening in your ribs, chest breathing, holding your belly in, none of that is your fault, but you are in a fight or flight, high vigilance, scanning threat situation. Your body's going to choose protective tension over pressure management. And this was Lauren when she came to us. Amazing student, one of our best program members, highly successful. But when she first came to us, she was doing all the things diligently, yet she had a hypervigilant system. Her nervous system was on alert. So anything she did created more downward pressure on her rectocele, her rectum, and her bladder prolapse. Now, this is not bad news, you guys. This is amazing news because it means you're not beyond help. It means that there's a path forward and there's something that you can do, and it works. And again, a quick note, if you're thinking this is all really, really good, but I want some help with my particular situation, join me on my live webinar. The link is below in the description, or comment webinar and I'll send you the link. And this is a trauma-informed live webinar, which links core rehabilitation, nervous system regulation, and shows you the exact blueprint to get back to exercise, high impact, or lifting, CrossFit, high rocks, hiking, without making your prolapse worse. And it's the exact blueprint I used to get back to doing my first high rocks at 50. Okay, step 2. Let's get into why Kegels and random rehab exercises, and in fact strengthening in general, is often not the right path to heal a prolapse. Okay, so if I take my own situation, when I got my 3 prolapses and I was starting to practice hypopressives, I didn't realize how stressed my system was, how braced I was, and I'd been living with stress for decades. So I have past childhood trauma that I'd worked on, but I also had many, many, many fearful patterns running in my life. So my whole system was on hypervigilance, hyper alert, stressed and tense. So when I tried to breathe into my ribs, there wasn't any movement. It would feel like there was this block, this tension, this stop. And when I did my apnea, I had no clue that I wasn't actually able to do an apnea. I was actually creating pressure down and kind of trying to suck up my organs and my pelvic floor, and I was pushing my prolapses down. It took a little bit of time for Duncan to be able to explain that to me and show that to me, because I had a lot of rage, a lot of anger going on. I was super defensive, and that tension, that athlete within me, that wanting to get the exercise right, was making my apnea kind of look, in hypopressives, look like pressure down. And that's just one example. It doesn't really matter what exercise you're doing or what rehabilitation strategy you're doing. If your whole system is tense and guarded, and if I exaggerate in this posture, whatever you're going to do is going to push pressure down. And then you take that tense, stress situation, you throw in a couple of kids, maybe throw in a business, a busy life, maybe lack of sleep, maybe some relationship challenges, maybe some past trauma, and you see how then you throw all of that onto an already stressed system, why things are not improving. So as somebody who loves to work out, I'm sure you're somebody who loves to work out, maybe you have an athletic background, you're not missing strength. You're not even missing strength of mind or strength of character. But what you might be missing is a skill. And athletes understand that, a new skill, which is nervous system regulation and pressure management. And now that leads me to again talking about hypopressives, because hypopressives can be a bridge to a skill, a better bridge than bracing like Kegels, but we do have to talk about them in a grounded way, because they are not the miracle fix-all magic thing. as you may have discovered. Okay, step 3, hypopressives. So we're going to really get some clarity on why they are definitely better for pressure and the bulge, and why they are still not the whole plan. So hypopressives are fantastic. They do change the pressure environment, okay? So they really teach your rib cage, your diaphragm, your deep core muscles, and your pelvic floor how to coordinate together in a way that reduces downward force. So that is a great thing. And I remember in the beginning just feeling so much relief, right? You feel the lift, you feel there's space again. There's not that heavy, awful tampon feeling, or that feeling like, you know, something's gonna fall out. I remember when I used to change my son's diaper and I would lean back to grab his nappy, as we call it in the UK, or diaper. I would literally, because I had a grade 3 rectocele, grade 2 cystocele, and a uterine prolapse, I would literally feel with that movement when I leaned back to grab something, like all my organs sliding forward. It was the worst. So obviously hypopressives are amazing in that they help with that space, they help with that coordination, they help with a lot of hope for your mind as well, that things are moving and things are lifting. But the thing I notice is that if you don't connect them to bending, pushing, pulling, lifting, jumping, under load, under fatigue, sprinting, speed, force, everything kind of goes out the window. So what happened to me was when I first went back to CrossFit and I jumped into things like box jumps and wall balls, straight away I could feel the bulge and the pressure again. So the question is, can you take the pressure strategy that you learned in hypopressives and take it to a sport under high impact? So they're a great bridge, but that's the missing piece. So for example, when Duncan worked with one of our amazing clients, Katie, ex-soccer player, and she was exceptionally good at hypopressives. I mean, amazing. But as soon as she went back to the gym, as soon as she went back to running, she noticed she was symptomatic again. So Duncan had to train her. I helped her train her nervous system, and he had to help her really physically build the hypopressives into all movement patterns, under load, under force, to be able to get back to the sport she loves. So step 4 is all about how to know you're moving forward so that one flare-up or one symptom doesn't steal your confidence and make you feel like you're going backwards. Okay, so one of the hardest parts about prolapse recovery, and we've seen this with so many of our program members, and it was exactly the same for me, is that you have a good week, you don't have any symptoms, you're feeling really good, and then boom, you have a symptom, or you feel the bulge a little bit more. And then your mind, because of that old nervous system feedback loop, starts to go, oh my goodness, nothing's working, I'm back where I was, you know, maybe I'll never heal this, you know, right? The spiral. And one of the things that's really important along the way for you to learn is that symptoms are feedback. So symptoms, or we could even say sensations, it's a better word, are not always signs that something's getting worse. Sometimes it's a sign that you have some stress somewhere else in your life and you're bracing so that you're doing that exercise, but you're a little bit tense. So you felt some more tension or bulging in your prolapse or your pelvic floor area. Sometimes it's completely unrelated. You could have had an argument, for example, with your partner or significant other, and you're feeling a lot of rage. What happens when we feel rage? We go into this posture, right? We start to push down. Then you go for a jog on top of that. Then your already braced system has to fight, you know, with tension, and then you're going to feel even more pressure down there. And you think, oh, it's because things are getting worse. But no, it's because actually, oh wow, I didn't realize, but I had an argument over here, something happened over here. I felt threat in my nervous system again, and now this manifested at XYZ. And really, at the root cause, it had nothing to do with your prolapse. It's all about nervous system regulation. So it is so important on your journey. And this is why fragmented rehab advice and using random tools with love doesn't work that great, and why you need a really integrated A to Z, step-by-step roadmap, blueprint, approach, because it's so important that you get your nervous system calm before you do any of these things. So for example, if we jump into, you know, box jumps or running before our nervous system has calmed down, then we're likely to become way more symptomatic and assume, oh, that's it, none of it's working, right? Whereas often it is working, but potentially that load or that run, maybe we need to wait a little while, a few more months until our system has calmed down even more before we add in things like this. So it is all about pressure management, not just physical pressure management, mind pressure management, nervous system pressure management, and it all needs to be sequenced together so that you have a really seamless approach to getting back to your favorite exercises and sports. And if you want to know more about this, my live masterclass is all about how to get back to high impact sports such as CrossFit, high rocks, running, lifting, hiking, all the things you love to do without compromising your prolapse. Some of our program members have even healed, and it's not a fragmented rehab approach, and it's not surgery first thinking either. I would love you to join me there. I can't wait to meet you. The link, like I said, is in the description below, or drop the word webinar into the comment section and I'll send you the link, and I can't wait to see you there. Thanks so much for joining me today, and I look forward to seeing you in my next video.